Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. We got a lot going on here in the Big Ten with fall camp practices starting. We got Big Jeff, with us tonight. Zach, a little under the weather, so Big Jeff is stepping in, putting on his Big Ten shoes on a Sunday night. Normally the insight's on Thursday nights, but we're going to have Jeff with us, and we're excited about that. We got some fall camp updates to go through a little bit. Got a couple position battles to talk about. Koi Perich is impressing early on the offensive side of the ball. Caleb Downs and some Jim Knowles talk over at Penn State. Good stuff to get to there. And then I will also get to my top 10 most dangerous Group of 5 matchups in the Big Ten this year. I'll present those to you. Jeff will give his thoughts, and we'll kind of talk through those a little bit more. So appreciate you being here. Please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Definitely helps out the channel here on YouTube. If you could, on the podcast platform, give us a 5-star rating as well. That would really help us out. Remember, you can catch us on the podcast platform Monday through Friday in the mornings, and then you can also catch us on YouTube Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. We got Jeff with us here. Jeff, man, appreciate you being here on Sunday night. You're kind of saving us here with Zach unexpectedly under the weather.
Yeah, filling in for Zach. I'm going to have to say a lot of disparaging things about the NCAA, right, to fit in.
That in Iowa. Yeah, that in Iowa.
To prove I live in Atlanta, though, believe it or not, tomorrow for my boy who's a junior in high school, first day of school tomorrow.
All right.
Yeah. I've lived in Atlanta 20 years now, and it's still shocking to me when you're going to school the first week in August. It doesn't feel right. There should be a law.
Oh, again. Yeah. We need more laws about that stuff.
That's all we need is more laws.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All right, let's see who we got here. We got Dave in the chat says, I come for the Big Ten knowledge. I stay for the SEC bashing. Oh, love it, Dave. Love that you're here for both of those, and just love that you're here in general. And Sky Ma, row the boat. That indeed. Sharice here. Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, Sharice? Thank you for being here. Also says, go Buckeyes. Max, number one unexpected battle so far this year is actually taking place in the SEC. Georgia players versus staying out of jail. Be careful on the roads down there, Jeff.
Yeah, my son's driving. He's avoided an accident so far. He did hit a deer, though, the first month having his license. So,
Well, as long as he doesn't have excessive speeding violations or anything, he should be good. He's not like those Georgia Bulldogs. So, Billy says Zach has aged. Evening, gentlemen. Evening, Billy. Thanks for being here, man. Max says more suspensions for.
Did say Zach got better looking.
Oh.
Come on now.
Max says more suspensions for Jack. What has he done? Zach, well, what has he done this time? No. He's just sick. So I guess he got the natural the natural suspension there. And Doug is here. Good evening, good people. What's up, Doug? Fisherman is here. Says Michigan sucks. As one would there, Fisherman. Appreciate you being here. Troy says jail is winning. All right. Cole says USC guard. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
Joe,
USC.
What's up, guys? All right. Hey, thanks for being here, everybody. Got a lot to get to. Frosty says flood warning due to SEC tiers over playing 9 conference games. I love that, Frosty. That's a fantastic comment right there. All right, we got a lot to get to. Jeff, let's start off with the one, the only, Koi Perich. I almost said Koi Perich. That's not right. Koi Perich. He made an amazing highlight. Him playing wide receiver, coming out of the slot. Let's check out this video of Koi Perich and see what we got here. All right, I had to mute it because it had some music in the background, but you check out this video. The cut. I mean, the ball was a little underthrown, but he had so much separation there. Didn't even really matter. That's a safety, Koi Perich, true sophomore, coming in playing both sides of the ball there for the Minnesota Gophers. What's your thoughts there, Jeff?
Not really surprising. I mean, he played so well at defensive back. Obviously, if his playmaker, if you're a punt returner, you've got good hands. There's no way you're punt returning unless you're going to. And so with his speed and playmaking ability, Also, his vertical leap, I don't know what it is, but it's got to be really high. So, not surprised. I do think it's going to be a part-time thing. They'll use him strategically, and it will force other teams to game plan for that. So, he's primarily still going to be a safety. I don't think he's going to be another Travis Hunter deal, because if you play a guy like that, you're basically increase your chances of injuring someone, right? I mean, it's such a physical game, but not really surprised by it. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be used not sparingly, but strategically on the offensive side of the ball. Number one, I don't think he's going to he's not going to be out there for every single snap. He just can't be with playing special teams and defense. And if you're going to put him anywhere specifically, it's going to be defense. And then on offense, I can't imagine they're going to be running posts for him over the middle and put him at risk of getting just completely clobbered there. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of these go routes. I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is kind of his specialty. His route running right now is the slot go route or wheel routes, different stuff like that. Whatever they can do to try to get his the ball in his hands, either behind the line of scrimmage or way downfield, one of those two. I think that's probably going to be the best thing to do there. So, and hey, I missed this one. Amonte Allen says UCLA, UCLA,
Yeah,
UCLA. Hey,
need some
appreciate you
West
being here.
Coast action here.
There we
We
go.
love
Hey,
you
that's why
guys.
we
We've
do
been
the.
saying all along. You're the key to us uh, exceeding the SEC. Without you, without the depth that we've added from the 4 Pac-12 teams, I don't think we could claim it, JR, because I think that's the big thing that needs to be overcome now is those middle tier teams. And I'm not saying all the West Coast teams are middle tier for sure, but you definitely are. You're not low tier, or you shouldn't be for long. So.
Totally, I totally agree with you. UCLA is a huge key there, and they'll get to it eventually. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes, but maybe this year. We'll see. All right. Matt Rule says Elijah Pritchett is in a tremendous battle at left tackle here, Jeff. Obviously, Elijah Pritchett, the former, I believe he was a 5-star recruit from Alabama. He is in a left tackle battle with pronounce this wrong, I apologize, but Gatula. And I gotta say, a lot of people kind of surprised by this. I'm not too surprised by it, but I want to get your thoughts first, Jeff. What's your thoughts here?
He Bama 3 years. He's from Georgia. He's actually played at Georgia, really highly rated, number 1 ranked transfer player according to Lindy's. So even higher ranked as a transfer than Dane Key, the key wide receiver transfer for the Huskers. It's so early in camp. I don't want to overreact to this. Maybe this is a good sign that Nebraska's got some depth so that someone like a Pritchett doesn't just come in and, oh yeah, you're the starter, no question. So I think it could be a good sign, but without knowing any inside knowledge. I guess that's my initial thought is it doesn't worry me.
Yeah, it doesn't worry me either. I imagine this is one of those situations, right, where like a transfer comes in and Matt Rule just doesn't want to give it to him right away. Of course, he was there in the spring as well, but wants to make him earn the battle. If you remember last year, Will Howard at Ohio State wasn't taking first quote unquote first team reps right away in fall camp. Fall camp is early. I know Nebraska started their camp a little bit earlier, but I mean when you're less than a week in, there's so much going on. There's so much, so many battles, and there's real battles. And I'm not saying this isn't a real battle, but there's just so much going on and stuff. I think Pritchett is obviously going to be the left tackle there. He has a whole lot of upside, a lot of physical traits that is going to make him very enticing, not only here at the college level, but much more so in the NFL as well. So it's going to be huge there. All right, Jeff, Indiana, your old stomping grounds there, your alma mater. The cornerback 2 spot. So obviously D'Angelo Pons has the cornerback 1 spot locked in, ready to go there. But the cornerback 2 spot looks like there's about a 3-man battle going on there, reported by Peaks.com. Jamari Sharpe, Ryland Gandy, and Jaylen Bell. Jamari Sharpe, he came in in relief of, I believe, Johnson last year, and D'Angelo Pons when he was injured a little bit. Ryland Gandy played at Pitt last year, did a good job there. He's coming in, and the true freshman Jaylen Bell, only a 3-star recruit. They had a lot of really good offers from down south, including Georgia. I believe LSU offered him as well. So there's a thought of a lot of upside there. What's your thoughts on this cornerback 2 battle at Indiana, Jeff?
I just would say it's an important thing because when you have a really good cornerback, like Indiana has on the one side, it just naturally means that that second quarterback is the one they're going to look to try to take a matchup advantage on. And if that's a weak link, that's really bad for a school like Indiana looking to make it to the playoffs again. I mean, Cignetti's very clear. He's not looking to just go to a bowl game. His expectations is we want to make the playoffs again. One of them is a true freshman. Now, it was an early enrollee, so that person came in January, got the spring workouts. The issue with the freshman, though, is just the body, getting that true college build. And if you're a cornerback, being in the weight room for a full year. So that's the Jaylen Bell. So really, I think it's between the other two. I had a note that just looking at this, Cignetti said at media days that Jamari Sharpe was in the lead. So, so I don't have any idea on who's going to win this other than to say like I opened with, it is very important because you're only as good as your weakest link, and especially when it comes to how much people like to throw the ball around nowadays in college football.
For sure, for sure, and I think you're right. I think Sharp is the guy. I heard Signetti say the same thing. He has familiarity with the system. He's been there before. He's played well in the system before. I think Ryland Gandy was a really good depth addition from the transfer portal, and then Jaylen Bell. I mean, for him to even be getting mentioned, a 3-star recruit, for him to be getting mentioned among these other guys right now, and it wasn't just Signetti. There was a interview with D'Angelo Pons, he was mentioning Bell as well. And I think it's just really, really good signs for Indiana, their fans, and just really goes to show Indiana's not just getting, talent out of the transfer portal. They're going out and getting recruits as well, finding 3-stars that maybe aren't as highly coveted at some of the higher programs, and they can come in and compete. So either that position is going to be really bad, and it's like, oh, okay, it makes sense a freshman is competing, or it's going to be really good, and it's like, wow, that freshman was competing there. That's really good. I tend to believe it's going to be good based on what we saw from Indiana last year. So, all right. Jeff, this one was perplexing to me. Caleb Downs possibly moving to nickel. All right, we had Matt Patricia in an interview after practice. I believe it was day 2 or 3 after practice, and he was talking about how many people believe he is the best defensive player in college football, possibly moving from the safety position, kind of strong safety, more near the box, to being more of the nickel position. There were some people saying that this was even the look that they saw from the defense the most was with Malik Hartford and Jalen McClain up at the 2 safety spots, and then Caleb Downs playing more of that nickel safety role. I think this is pretty interesting. I don't know if I had it on my radar that Caleb Downs is going to be playing nickel for Ohio State. It was one of my questions going into fall camp to see what they would do here. But Jeff, I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, Matt Patricia, new defensive coordinator for Ohio State, came from the Patriots. The Patriot way, the Bill Belichick way is whatever you do best, we're going to take that away. Like if you have a great player, we are going to take that away and see if you can do plan B, whatever your plan B is, because we're going to take away plan A. I say all that to say, if a guy like Downs, who's just such an athlete, so flexible in what he can do, if he can play nickel some games, he can go back to safety other games. If he can play nickel, it could give that flexibility to put your best guy on some receiver that you just want to take away, and maybe and it just gives you way more flexibility in what you can do to stop another team's a plan A. So that's the way I look at it, JR. I'm not expecting it. Oh yeah, he's a nickel full season. I see it as, well, he could play nickel in a game or in parts of a game, and that also forces teams to game plan for that, right? And it just gives Ohio State a lot of flexibility in how they can, stop the other team's main weapons. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I'm wondering if this is more of a vibe of Matt Patricia trying to get Jalen McLean and Malik Hartford as many reps as possible in fall camp, so that way he can truly evaluate which one of these guys is going to be starting next to Caleb Downs. Now, I do have some reservement for saying that because I do think that Lorenzo Styles Jr., like if you had a steady nickel, then you could do that a little bit more, but Lorenzo Styles Jr. is not exactly the most steady nickel in the world because he doesn't have the most experience there. It's nothing against his talent and ability. It's just he's not the most experienced player there. So I do have some thoughts there, but then I'm also thinking kind of what you're talking about with like the offense might not know what you're going to throw at them, give them different looks. We'll see what happens here. That's one of the advantages that I think Ohio State has over Texas in this early matchup, to where Texas isn't going to know exactly what Matt Patricia's throwing out there. So, do they want to try and play into the media a little bit? Doesn't really seem like Ryan Day's MO, but I'm wondering if this is more a case of Matt Patricia trying to see as much of Malik Hartford and Jalen McLean as he possibly can to try and figure out who does he want to start in most scenarios. But I think it's clear that he's pretty happy with both of these guys so far, especially the way he talked about them in the interview. I think we'll probably see both of them quite a bit this season. We might just be looking at maybe a special package Matt Patricia has as well. So
That triggered something else. Ryan Day coached under Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was really big on let's get our best 11 on the field, right? Whether it's offense or defense. This could be a way to get your best 11 to kind of your point, JR. If Malik Hartford and Jalen McLean, they have high confidence in them. Well, then maybe Caleb in having Lorenzo Styles more come off the bench, that means the starting 11, you're maximizing that. So it could tie to how well those two other safeties are playing to try this experiment, right?
yeah, for sure. Ohio State fans, don't go anywhere because we're talking about your old favorite here, Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles said in a press conference, I believe this was either day 2 or day 3 of the Penn State camp as well. I've watched so many different interviews with coaches and press conferences at this point. They're all just together in my head. But one quote that stuck out in particular was Jim Knowles said, "I've developed a process that helps move it being the defensive scheme, along at a more rapid pace." So if you're not an Ohio State or a Penn State fan, you might not know what I'm referring to here. Essentially, when Jim Knowles first got to Ohio State in 2022, he said in a press conference that typically it takes, I believe he said, 2 to 3 years to implement his defense. And he wasn't lying because by year, 3, they had the best defense in the country. So once that defense got implemented and installed, they became the best in the country. Now Jim Knowles is going over to Penn State, and a lot of Ohio State fans are saying, whoa, 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 slow your roll. He's not just going to come in and change it all right away, because it does take a few years to implement and install that defense. Penn State fans are really confident in their defense, so don't seem to be as concerned about it, and rightfully so, because Tom Allen did run a similar defense to what Jim Knowles was running at Ohio State. So, Jeff, I'm curious your thoughts here. Do you believe Jim Knowles? You think he really has sped up the process? Are you confident that Penn State is going to figure this out? What's your thoughts here?
So I do have philosophy. Always really good coaches are always learning new things, no matter what their age, and always looking to improve. So I do believe through his experience, he can implement something faster. The question, though, is how fast. You said exactly right. I mean, Jim Knowles, and he's a great coordinator, but I went to Indiana. Indiana, Ohio State are my two teams. I look at Jim Knowles as costing Ohio State the championship in 2022. I just think early in the Michigan game, he brought these zero blitzes when he didn't need to. Ohio State was pretty, I don't want to say in control, but they were playing well, had established and were in the lead. And then in the second quarter, just a hyper aggressive all out blitz with like no safety help, and bam, a Michigan big play that just changed things. So, I do think he learned from that. And so implementing something he can learn from, but Knowles' defense is based on safeties really knowing what they're doing. And that's one of the reasons why it takes a long time for it to to be learned is because of everything these safeties have to do to really understand, and all that back end, they need to be in sync. You have big plays when one person thought another had the guy, and then someone's free and there's a touchdown. So, all that to say is I do have my doubts that it's something, if it's still a strong safety oriented offense, to get those safeties in sync, 100% sure what they're doing. Often that takes game reps to do it too. That's a part of the reason why it takes long. There's only so much you can do in practice as well. So JR, I'm saying I do think he could, through experience, maybe enhance that learning curve a little bit. So it's a little bit faster, but really it's not like you're going to take a 2-year process and now make it like a 3-month process. So I would say that's partially, I partially believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, Fisherman asked, does Penn State have a safety that can clean up like downs? So they have Zakee Wheatley. He's more of a free
Good one.
safety. Yeah, he's fantastic. He's one of the best safeties in college football. But like I said, he's more of a free safety, kind of the roamer in the back. Their strong safety, I believe, will be Dewan Lane or King Mack. I think Dewan Lane will probably win out there. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think all this stuff is interesting to talk about. I think this is just me, and I'm not trying to say Jim Knowles is a liar or anything like that, but I think Jim Knowles knew what he was walking into in Ohio State, which was he was walking into a fan base that was hungry and ready to get the defense fixed. And he kind of wanted to temper back expectations a little bit and be like, guys, it really takes 2 to 3 years, so that way he didn't have Ohio State fans, on his tail right away. He's going to Penn State. Now he's saying, I found a way to make things quicker. It can get installed better. Is that true? Sure, I'm sure it is. Like he coached at Ohio State for 3 years. I'm sure he has figured some stuff out. But at the end of the day, the most important thing here is who your players are. All right. The most important thing is who do you have on the field? What caliber of players do you have out there making plays? You have AJ Harris, a fantastic cornerback. You have Zakee Wheatley, a fantastic safety back there. You have Tony Rojas, who has made some plays, but he's also getting disrespected a little bit this year with some of people not thinking he might be as good as others might think. You have Amari, Caldwell, who's the North Carolina transfer, Amari. I forget his last name. I apologize. Campbell. That's right. Amari Campbell. He's going to be there. He's going to be a fantastic blitzer for him. Denied Dennis Sutton. Like, you have really good players on this Penn State defense. The trick is going to be, can those guys perform to that level they need to perform to more than anything else? Coaching is great. Coaching's fantastic. You need great coaches. But at the end of the day, it's all about the players and the talent you have on the field. Fortunately for Penn State, they have a lot of talented players, but we'll see if it gets it done because Caleb Downs made a whole lot of really good plays last year. Jack Sawyer, Jim Knowles didn't coach Jack Sawyer to strip that fumble. I mean, I'm sure he did coach him, but that was Jack Sawyer making that play, getting that fumble from Quinn Ewers and taking it. That wasn't a play that Jim Knowles drew up. It comes down to the players more than anything else, and that's why I think, sure, some of this talk is valid, but at the end of the day, it's more about the players than anything else. So
yeah, and really, when you think about it, too, Jim, the question is, how much better of a DC is Jim Knowles than Tom Allen, right? And I think the belief he's better, but is it dramatically better? I have my doubts on that. I think it's hard to be, especially when Allen was very well regarded. But so don't get me wrong, Penn State fans, we do think this is a good thing for sure for Penn State, and especially because another difference is now Jim Knowles knows what it's like to help lead a team to a national championship, where Tom Allen certainly didn't have that experience. So that is a big factor as well. But it's never been for Penn State. The defense has never been the problem, and it will be the same thing this year. Now, if they're lights out, that's really going to help, and maybe means Aller doesn't have to be amazing this year, right? And that's helpful. But really, it's still going to come down to Aller and that offense for Penn State in their aspirations to win it all.
Yep, defense is going to be fantastic. The players, Jim Knowles, it's going to be a fantastic defense. It comes down to the offense, as we talked about time and time again. Great point there. All right, let's get to Jeff. Our 10. Oh, where'd you go? There you are. I always do that. My 10 most dangerous Big Ten Group of Five matchups. So I did the 10 most must-win matchups of Power Four teams only in the Big Ten. Zach and I disagreed on that a little bit, but Jeff, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. So for those of you listening on podcast, these are the most dangerous matchups I have versus group of five teams. Okay, so this is a combination of good group of five teams and also situations where Big Ten teams could possibly lose. As we know, losing to a group of five team is a bit of a stain on your conference. It's not something you want to happen. I made fun of bowling of who was it, Mississippi State, that lost to Bowling Green last year, or was it Bowling Green or Toledo? One of the two. One of the MAC schools last year, plenty. So these are some of the group of five matchups going against Big Ten teams that I think are the most dangerous. Jeff, we'll get your thoughts after I list them out here for the podcast listeners. Number one, I have Northwestern at Tulane. Number two, UCLA at UNLV. Number three, Washington at Washington State. Number four, Northern Illinois versus Maryland. Number five, Ohio at Rutgers. Number six, Miami of Ohio at Wisconsin. Number seven, Miami of Ohio at Rutgers. Number eight, Buffalo at Minnesota. Number nine, Colorado State at Washington. And number 10, I have New Mexico at Michigan. Jeff, your thoughts?
So I'm really upset with you, JR. I clearly think the number one is Kennesaw State University at Indiana.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I think
that's a
you
huge
missed the
one.
ball here. Just kidding for the audience, although that is a real game happening. My son will be a sophomore at Kennesaw State this year. It's in the suburb of Atlanta. I went to Indiana. We're going to go to it. I'm driving up there for the game. And, my son thinks Kennesaw actually has a real shot at it. So, but yeah,
Let him keep thinking that. Let him keep dreaming.
that wouldn't make the list. To cut the mustard, the first three I agree with, and just to hit on them real fast, Northwestern at Tulane. Tulane actually, like Lindy's. So I get the bunch of preseason publications, and one of them is Lindy's. Northwestern is ranked 81 by Lindy's. Tulane is ranked 45th. So Tulane should be favored, especially that's at Tulane. And really think about new quarterback Preston Stone, your opener on the road. I mean, it would have been nice if this was game 2 for Northwestern on the road like that. So that's a real tough one for them. Number 2, UCLA at UNLV. So I know we got our UCLA person. I agree. This is a tough one. UCLA opens at home versus Utah, right? And that's going to be a tough battle. And then you have to go on the road. So if you lose the game, then maybe you don't go into that second game with a lot of confidence. If you win it, maybe you could get caught with your guard down. Washington at Washington State, rivalry game. Definitely agree with that on the road for Washington. That's something they better be ready to play. And then, JR, I guess later, a little different. I thought Ohio at Rutgers would be a little tougher. They're closer ranked by Lindy's, but having an experienced quarterback like Alec Manis, I do think Rutgers will pull it off. So I had that one, number 4. Number 5, then I had Miami of Ohio at Rutgers as well. That's game 2 for them. So just a little different than yours. And then my number 6 was your number 4, Northern Illinois at Maryland. One of the reasons is Maryland, despite them not always having great years, they do great in September, right? They haven't lost a lot in September. So I'm kind of, Loxley has that figured out. Where he struggles is in October. So that's the only reason I kind of dropped that down to number 6, JR. And then I agree on 8 and 9, Buffalo at Minnesota. That's just a threat because Lindsey has a new quarterback, but it's at home, So I think they're pretty safe. And then Colorado State at Washington, also the opener. Washington will be ready for that. I don't see an upset of Colorado State. It's an opener. It's at home. And then my only one in the top 10 that I don't like New Mexico at Michigan. I actually had New Mexico at UCLA as a bigger threat just because, and I'm not disparaging UCLA here. I really like what Deshaun Foster is doing. In fact, I love how hard they play for them. I just think that's a bigger threat than obviously at Michigan, with that defense and everything. So I'd put New Mexico at UCLA and bump the New Mexico at Michigan. But really, not big discrepancies with what you have.
Yeah, sounds like we're pretty tight there together. So you mentioned Northwestern Tulane. Tulane is favored in that game by 6.5 on FanDuel, which is interesting. I mean, it's not exactly interesting. I figured Tulane would have been favored there, but yeah, definitely a weird scheduling decision there by Northwestern. If a Northwestern fan is listening and wants to comment and let us know if there was some kind of special scheduling thing there that went on, I couldn't find anything out there about why that would have been, but that is an interesting decision there. And then I will say, so I'll just kind of skip to the end here because we talked about it. So Michigan is this is one that people are going to roast me for having them at 10th, and I get that. Michigan is favored in the game against New Mexico by 36.5 points. I get that. I get that. But hear me out. All right. Last year, Michigan struggled in their very first game against Fresno State. That was a one-score game in the third quarter. That was a 10-point game in the fourth quarter between Fresno State and Michigan, primarily because of the quarterback issues that was going on with Davis Warren and everything else. Now, they're not going to have those same issues, but what they are going to have is they are going to have a true freshman quarterback starting. Like you referenced Drake Lindsey getting his first start against Buffalo. It's Drake Lindsey, but he's in his second year. Bryce Underwood's going to be a true freshman starting against New Mexico. It's going to be at home. He's going to have a really good running game. So I'm not putting him anywhere close to like in the top 5. But I do think there needs to be something said there about the possibility Michigan struggling in the opener last year, Bryce Underwood, true freshman starting quarterback. And then I know Michigan fans hate it when I bring it up, but we do need to wonder what's going to happen with Sherrone Moore. Is Sherrone Moore going to be coaching this game, right? Though these sanctions are going to come down at some point, and I don't think Michigan just offered up a 2-game suspension all willy-nilly for nothing. I think there might be more game suspensions coming for Sherrone Moore. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But this is a game that I would not be surprised to see Michigan get off to a slow start, and it'd be something like 10-3 at halftime, and people are thinking, Michigan's a little bit closer here. Now, they'll probably pull ahead and win by, 30, 40 points, but still, something at halftime that's a one-score game, I'd call that a little bit of a dangerous situation.
Yeah, one thing to support JR, beyond these 10 that he provided, he provided an honorable mention list. Like if you weren't to list that as 10, the honorable mention list is, includes things like Kennesaw State and Indiana. So it's hard to find one.
Old Dominion, Indiana.
Yeah, Old Dominion, Indiana. And yeah, I think with the way Cignetti is, I mean, they're going to smoke both those pretty good. So Jared, I think, you have that at 10, like, oh my God, but the other options to replace them other than mine that I had, I still like the New Mexico at UCLA, but beyond that, I couldn't find any others that would probably necessarily bump that one.
Yeah. Fisherman says that Northwestern Tulane is the second game of a home and home first. Why are you doing a home and home against Tulane? I don't get. Okay, I accept that reasoning, but then I also have a question of what's the reasoning for home and home with Tulane? I don't know. I just don't get it personally. But hey, Steely Matt reposted the stream there on Twitter. Thanks for doing that, Steely Matt. Really appreciate you, man. You're doing that just about every week for us, and we appreciate that. You're awesome. So my other honorable mentions were Oregon State at Oregon, rivalry game. I don't think it's going to be too big of a game, but it is a rivalry game, so it's one we need to think about. New Mexico at UCLA was one that I had there, and I debated about putting it 10th as well. I saw somebody ask about it in the chat. Western Michigan at Illinois is actually one that I had there as well. I think Illinois is going to win it, but you have that out-of-conference game with Duke. Could there be a little bit of a sleepy situation? And Western Michigan gave Wisconsin a really good game last year in that one. Now, I'm not saying Illinois is Wisconsin last year. They won 5 games. Illinois won 10. But still, early in the season, a MAC team coming in there wanting to make some damage. And then Ohio at Ohio State, and then Georgia Southern at USC I had as well. That one wasn't really all that close, but it was one kind of on my radar. So, and then I believe believe Western Michigan is also playing Michigan State. Yeah, that's the opener there. I didn't write that one down, but I had that one as well. So Western Michigan getting plenty of Big Ten content this this season. So yeah. Yeah, and I was gonna say as well, Jeff, that Northern Illinois one of the reasons why I had it up there higher, I don't think they're gonna be as good as they were last year, but they did beat Notre Dame last year at Notre Dame. So does Northern Illinois find another big out of conference? I mean, Maryland's not what Notre Dame was last year, but do they find another out of conference run? Can they put together, upset another bigger school? I don't know. Could happen.
Yeah, and let's see, that's the second game. So, Maryland is going to, we don't even know. Do we have a good idea who Maryland's quarterback is going to be? Because it's going to be a new one. So those would
Yeah,
be
it's
the
either
ones that worry me the most. And one of your points on having Michigan 10th there is just with a new quarterback, which we're assuming it's going to be Bryce Underwood and not Keene. That's the part that does scare you some, right? Is that quarterback getting settled in? Often they're just, they're nervous and everything's sped up and they haven't settled in yet, and bad things can happen, when that's the case. So for Maryland, yeah, they open with FAU and then have the Northern Illinois and then Towson. So do expect them to be 3-0 going into Wisconsin, but you never know with a young quarterback leading the charge there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, going through the comments. Death Star says, JR, I think overall you're too low on Rutgers in terms of record. I do think they should win these two games. Yeah, I'm not picking Rutgers to lose these two games by any means. Don't think that I'm saying that, Death Star. The only two that I'm picking here, the only one I'm picking here to be a loss is Northwestern. I'm not picking anybody else on this list to lose. I just think they're dangerous games. This is less so about Rutgers and more so about, I think, Ohio and Miami of Ohio are dangerous teams this season.
Yeah.
If you notice, I have Washington on here twice as well, and I think Washington is going to be a borderline playoff team, possibly. So it's nothing against Rutgers. It's just,
Yeah, and
they play some dangerous opponents, I think.
just an example. So Ohio, Lindy's has them 88th in the nation. Now that might not sound that high, but for a MAC school, that's a solid rating. A lot of MAC schools are in the hundreds. And this year, I think we went from 134 D1 teams to 136, JR, just so you know. I didn't realize that till today, I think. But 88 for Ohio, that's a solid MAC school. And remember with MAC schools, they're getting all the guys that didn't get offered by Ohio State and Michigan's, and those players work their butts off and really develop and are there 4 or 5 years and are older players. And then even Miami of Ohio is 95th. So again, any MAC school under 100 tells you they've got some good talent, and that's a pretty good ranking.
Mm-hmm. For sure, for sure. Ty Summerall says Michigan last year had a first year everything last year, and Ohio State has been saying the same thing about sanctions for 4 years. Nobody cares, but Ohio State, they can't win on the field. Tice, appreciate you being here. Thank you for commenting. I will say that Michigan did have a lot of new last year. They did not have a brand new starting true freshman quarterback, though, and they do have that this year. They'll most likely have a brand new starting left tackle, a brand new starting wide receiver one, a brand new starting tight end. It's going to be a lot of brand new starting on this year as well. And then as far as the sanctions for 4 years, I think you've had a head coach suspended the last 2 years. So I don't think it's all that much of a hot take to say there's a possibility of your head coach being suspended there. I know you want to turn this into an Ohio State-Michigan thing, and I get that. That's fine. I wear the Ohio State badge. I'm an Ohio State fan. But this isn't Ohio State homerism. I've said I don't think there's going to be very many sanctions. I've said it before, and I've said that, to me, we just have to look at the facts and see what actually happens. I think there's probably going to be sanctions for Sharon Moore. I don't think there's going to be all that many sanctions for the team. And I think that the NCAA has backed that up with the way they've pretty much done things. So, Tice, appreciate you being here, but I think you've confused me with some other Buckeye fans that try to go too far at things. I'm giving my honest analysis here, and I remain pretty restrained as an Ohio State fan on some of this stuff. I feel like I do a pretty good job of that. But if it's not to your liking, that's fine. You can find a show someplace else. Thanks, Tice.
Yeah, we're definitely not. There is, an element of strong support for Ohio State, but our whole basis for the Big Ten Huddle is we're covering all the teams and we're trying to do it objective as we can. And everyone brings some bias based on what school they went to. It's hard not to totally avoid that, but I think we kind of avoid going deep on Michigan sanctions. We don't want to ignore it or anything, and we might bring it up, but we're not making that like the story. And if anything, on Michigan, I wrote an article on my website, bigjustfootball.com, as one of the very first ones. I mean, I looked at the talent they had coming back at key positions, including defensive line. And I mean, I don't think they're falling off a cliff. Some think so. I don't think so. Remember, some had them in the preseason top 10, and I supported that and wrote a whole article saying they're not falling off a cliff here, people. In the first part of the season, they fell off the cliff. Now, credit to them, though. Great upset of Ohio State and then beating Alabama, who's a super talented team. So really it was like a roller coaster ride for Michigan. But just for everyone to know, we're definitely not – we're trying to cover every Big Ten team and do it in an objective way and say how we feel, but it's not homerism. And if anything, I like to maybe try to call each other out, JR, for being too much of a homer for our teams. So, but yeah, interesting comment.
Yeah, everybody has bias, and you're never gonna not find anybody without bias. If they don't have any bias, they're not a true fan, in my opinion. And there's place for that. Last thing I'll say here is Ty says you're Michigan hater. Stop and name that one that you don't have a question about. I picked Michigan to go 9-3. So, and there's other people out there that people say are, college football with Sam gets called an Ohio State lover all the time, and he picked Ohio State to go 9-3. So
yeah. Well, in fact, JR has predicted Michigan to beat Ohio State for your reason. They're in their head. They've won 4 years in a row until it's changed. So JR was on the record saying, I have Michigan beating Ohio State. So, and same with Jet. Now, my predictions will be coming out 2-part series. First, this Thursday night to be broadcast on Friday morning or released as a podcast on Friday morning. But I will be dividing the Big Ten in half, covering the top half of the Big Ten and providing my prediction records. So I'm not going to reveal what I think will happen with Michigan and Ohio State, but for sure we'll be talking about that some on Thursday night.
Yeah. Nice. Very cool. Looking forward to that, Jeff. All right. Hey, good discussion here. We are going to end the first half of the episode here. If you're watching on YouTube, please do stick with us. We are going to get to the second half of the episode. If you are listening on podcast, thank you so much for listening. We're going to end the episode here, and then you can catch the second half of this episode on Tuesday morning. The next coming episode will be I have named the top 5 players on every single Big Ten team, and then Jeff, even if he disagrees with who those top 5 are, he will be putting them in order of his best, from number 1 to number 5. I almost said best to worst, but that's like really difficult to say best to worst on top 5. So he'll be ranking those players 1 to 5 for every single Big Ten team. We'll go through all of them here right after this. We'll be right back and do it here. Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, and I got Big Jeff with me here once again. Intriguing little exercise here that I have for us to do. I went through and named the top 5 players on every single Big Ten team. These are not like NFL draft picks. These are top 5 players for this season. Which players do I think are going to be the best on their team this season? I've named my top 5 for every team. We'll go through all of them, and Jeff will name them from 1 to 5 who he thinks is the best down to 5. It's going to be a fun episode. Got a lot to get to here. Please do like, subscribe here on YouTube. If you're on podcast, give us a 5-star rating. Catch us on Monday through Friday at every single day on podcast, and then on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. for the YouTube shows as well. We appreciate you being here. Jeff, thanks for being here. You excited to rank these players?
Yeah, man, a lot. It's just when you realize, oh my God, 18 teams, to go through, and you're like, can we go back to 14? Although, no, actually, we love the 4 Pac-12 teams because it's going to help us take over the SEC as the top conference in the land if we're not already there, right?
Yeah, there we go. We get to talk about it all. Gonna be fun stuff. All right, Jeff. Let's get straight into this. This could be a long exercise, so I want to make sure we do it right. Oh, those are the last ones. All right. So I've named the top 5 players on each Big Ten team. They are in alphabetical order here on the graphic. So these are not the orders that Jeff is going to have. But Jeff, let's start with Illinois here. Let's just go alphabetical order today. All right. Let's start with Illinois here. I have named the top 5 players being Gabe Yakas, outside linebacker, J.C. Davis, left tackle, Josh Kreutz, the center for Illinois. I think he gets a little underrated sometimes. And then obviously Luke Altmaier and starting safety or cornerback slash safety type of guy, Xavier Scott. What do you think about those top 5, Jeff? And how would you rank them 1 to 5?
So to help with this exercise, Lindy's is a magazine I got, and one section of Lindy's ranked like the top NFL prospects. So I'm using that to kind of influence things. And so to be clear, we're saying this is not the guys we would draft or whatever to have for 2 or 3, 4 years if they have more than 1 year of eligibility. It's like, who do we want this year? Who's the biggest impact and best player this year? So that's kind of to clarify what we mean by best. And when it comes to Illinois, Gabe Jacobs, he's really projected well through Lindy's. And Lindy's uses this company called allaccessfootball.com. So these are people that are watching a lot of game films. And I'm telling you, everyone knows that listens to my podcast, cranking out data, looking at analysis through data. And so that's not film study, right? So I had to cheat here a little bit to be able to articulate very well why I think some of these, but using Lindy's and basically that allaccessfootball.com, Gabe Jacobs clearly number 1, I think, actually a projected first rounder. I mean, unless he actually has a weak season, projected first rounder. And some of the stats from last year are impressive. Michigan, 13 tackles against Michigan, 2.5 sacks. And then in the big bowl win against South Carolina, 3 tackles for loss. So, I put him as number 1. In all these, JR, I'm going to give like the number 1 guy like a bunch of focus. Then I'll just say the last 4 without much ado. I have J.C. Davis as number 2, the tackle. Cornerback Xavier Scott is number 3. Center Josh Kreutz. And then finally, Luke Altmaier is 5th. From a perspective of who's most important for Illinois, of all the 5, I put Altmaier, but that's not what this list is about. So those are the 5 I had, JR.
Yeah, I like that. I think Luke Altmaier, it's hard to name him as like one of the top 3 guys because he is such a gamer, but he doesn't necessarily have that like elite trait as a quarterback that is going to elevate him to be one of the best, on the team or something like that. But he is such a gamer, so he has to get that recognition of a top 5 type of guy, I feel like. But I like the way you did that. I totally agree with Gabe Yakas at number 1 for sure. Hey, look at this. We got our USC guys here with us. What's going on, guys? Trojan Fight and Fight On. Natty's here with us. What's good, everyone? What's up, USC? Guys, appreciate you being here. All right, let's head to Indiana next here, Jeff. All right, we got Indiana, Aiden Fisher, linebacker, and then Carter Smith, left tackle. I'm really high on Carter Smith. I was looking at some rankings by other people, and they don't have Carter Smith as high as I do. But I think if this offensive line is going to be really good this year, it's going to be very helpful to have Carter Smith anchoring things down over there at left tackle. D'Angelo Pons, obviously a fantastic corner. He's not going to get drafted nearly high enough for the type of player that he is because he just doesn't have the physical traits, I think, that most first-round cornerbacks have or second-round quarterbacks have. But he could really play himself up there with just his play in general this season. And Elijah Surratt, fantastic wide receiver, if not the number 2, probably number 3, maybe number 4 best wide receiver in the Big Ten. He's somewhere in that range, but he's just a fantastic wide receiver and one of the best in the nation. And then Mikel Kamara, can't say enough great things about him, playing at the stud position this year for Indiana. I like that thought there by Brian Haynes, and I'm excited to see how they deploy him this season. Your thoughts on the top 5, Jeff?
Yeah, a lot of great choices for Indiana. These are all returning starters that played a huge role last year. So, And at first, I wanted to go with Carter Smith because of the importance of the offensive line and, Indiana struggling versus the best teams like Notre Dame and Ohio State that had great fronts, and even Michigan. But then I'm like, wait a minute, he's not the best player. So I went with Mikel Kamara. So still the defensive line, but he's really highly rated by Lindy's in All Access Football. In fact, all first four of these were all rated 1 through 4 by them, and that's what I'm going with. Mikel Kamara 1, 2 is D'Angelo Pons, and for the NFL, I am concerned about his size, so I agree with you, JR, but he's a great player. Elijah Surratt, number 3, no concern about his size, 6'2", 209. Carter Smith, 4, definitely an NFL-type player. And then the 5th one, Aiden Fisher, still really important guy, though, strong leader. Aiden Fisher might be the strongest leader of all those 5, so he might be, in some ways, is more important. But just from a pure talent perspective, I think he falls behind the other 4.
Yeah, I like that. Good stuff there. I really like Aiden Fisher. He doesn't necessarily have maybe the athletic traits that some might want in a linebacker type of guy, but he just reads the defense. He reads the offense so well, and he's such a good defender, and he knows his defense so well. Great leader to have out there, and I love that about him. All right, let's move on. Oh, PK says Pons is second round pick. Yes, I've seen those projections as well. Looking at the draft, I just don't know if he goes that high with how much emphasis they put on traits and everything else and physical size. I would love it if he is drafted that high. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if he'll actually go that high. What is he, 5'9"? A little bit on the smaller side. We'll have to see. So, but PK, I hope you're right. I hope he does go second round because he deserves that recognition.
Yeah, but he's a great college player no matter what. So that's for sure.
For sure.
Right.
For sure. All right, let's move on to Iowa here. Jeff, we have Aaron Graves, defensive lineman. You're gonna find a pattern here of linemen. Aaron Graves, defensive lineman. Ethan Herkett, defensive lineman. Jennings Dunker, offensive lineman. Logan Jones, center but offensive lineman. And then he didn't perform as well last year as I think he could have, but 2 years ago he was much better. So maybe he just had an off year last year. We'll see if he can bounce back this year. But I'm going to keep Xavier Nwankpa in there. I know some Iowa fans would argue Mark Gronowski, just like I know some Indiana fans might argue Fernando Mendoza. I think Fernando Mendoza hasn't proved himself yet to be in the top 5 of Indiana, so I felt pretty good about that. And I still do want to see Mark Gronowski prove himself before I see him in the top 5 for Iowa. Till then, trenches, line of scrimmage dominant here for Iowa, and then the 5-star safety and Xavier Nwankpa for me.
Yeah, so for me, Logan Jones, number 1, the center, and he was rated 1 by the All Access Football as well. He's in his 6th season, listed as a potential first-round pick. And when you're the center, you're the quarterback of the line. So I'm putting some importance on that. And of course, protecting that new quarterback is going to be so huge. So number 2 for me was Nwankpa. Number 3, offensive tackle, Jennings Dunker. And all 3 of those were listed as among the top 5 for NFL prospects. And then Ron, if you've ever seen the thing on Twitter, if you haven't seen that, need to look at it. Ron Graves, number 4, and then defensive end Ethan Herkett I had as number 5 for me.
Yeah, I like this defensive line for Iowa, and I like this offensive line too. If they're going to get to the playoffs or anything this season, it's going to be on the back of their trenches. Not to say the other players aren't good, but just that's how good the trenches are for Iowa here. So, all right, next we have Maryland. Listen, I don't like to put special teamers in the top 5, but Maryland does have themselves a very good punter, and Bryce McPherson that I think deserves the credit to be up there. So I have Bryce McPherson, tight end Dorian Fleming. He's very good. Jaleel Farouk, wide receiver. I've given Octavian Smith a lot of credit there at Maryland. I think he is going to be more of a leader on this team, but I still think Jaleel Farouk is probably the best wide receiver on this team, and so he's in the top 5. And then I had to put my Big Ten draft guy and Jalen Husky up there, the safety. Really like him. And then I went out on a limb here a little bit, Larry one time told me about Nolan Ray. I know I was a little down on the Maryland running backs. After we did that episode, Larry told me, look up Nolan Ray. So I watched Nolan Ray a little bit more closely, took some time to go through, and I really, really like this kid. I really like his game. This might be a little bit of a hot take to have him in the top 5 here, but I think he's going to be really special for Maryland this season. So I have Nolan Ray, the running back.
Yeah, so for me, the wide receiver, Farouk, for sure, listed by Lindy's. 4 years at Oklahoma, broke foot in the season opener last year versus Temple, and then was out 3 months and then played, I think, late in the season. So they really missed him. And at Oklahoma, they used him at running back at times and a kick returner. So I think just good versatility for the NFL, but that also means good versatility to Maryland. That's why I'm listing him first. And then number 2, JR, I had Jalen Husky, the safety. Number 3, the tight end, Dorian Fleming. All 3 of those were listed in the top 5 NFL prospects by Lindy's for Maryland. And then I'll go with running back Nolan Ray, and then the punter. I can't put a punter, high unless it's an Iowa punter. I just can't do it. Do it. But I'm sure he's no doubt excellent, but I list him number 5 for Bryce McPherson.
I get that. Reese Dinkin, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, at Iowa, he was listed to the top 100 players on a website. All those websites put out their top 100 players in college football. He was the only Iowa player listed. So I was like, man, I feel like I'm really doing him disservice if I don't have him here in the top 5 for Iowa. It was either him or Xavier Nwankpa, and I went with Nwankpa over Reese Dinkins. So. Sorry, Iowa punter. If Iowa fans come after me, I fully accept that one. All right, let's move on to Michigan here. Jeff, listen, there should be no shade for Dominic Zavada being on this Michigan list. He is fantastic. And just so everybody knows, this is alphabetical order, but I did get Dominic Zavada and Derek Moore wrong there, so apologies. I'll switch that when I post this graphic. But Dominic Zavada, Derek Moore at the edge position, really like him and what he's going to bring. Jaysean Barham, linebacker. Rayshon Benny, defensive lineman. That's a little bit of projection because he wasn't starting last year, but just based off how he played last year, I think he's going to be really, really good, and I like what I saw from him. And then Rod Moore was not able to play last year, had the injury. He's back this year. Again, another one of the best safeties in the nation. I'm telling you, the Big Ten has the best safeties in college football this season, and it's not even close. The number of safeties who play for Big Ten teams that are just fantastic, it's a huge number, and it's a big hat tip to the Big Ten this season. All right, Jeff, how would you rank these 5 for Michigan?
Michigan's just loaded on defense again. It's really hard to pick among these defensive guys. I went with the edge, Derek Moore, first, just because he's an edge, right? That's going to be important, putting pressure on the quarterback. But right there with them, number 2, the defensive tackle, Rayshon Benny. Linebacker, Jaysean Barham is number 3. And then I list the kicker 4th, Zavada. I mean, he was the difference in beating Ohio State's kicker missed 2 30-something yard simple field goals, and Michigan's kicker didn't. That's really one of the main differences in the game. And then Rod Moore as number 5. Interestingly, Lindy's listed the top NFL player was new starting quarterback, sophomore cornerback J.R. Hill. They love his adaptability, to use in multiple schemes. So just defense. It's going to be excellent for Michigan once again.
Yeah, Hill was getting a lot of credit in a lot of different places. I'm not necessarily down on Hill. It was either Hill or Moore.
He's young.
And and it's no shade on Hill. I just remember how good Rod Moore was 2 years ago for that national championship team, and I had to put him up there. So it very well could be Hill that is in that top 5, maybe over Zavada or somebody like that by season's end. But I had to give the nod to some of the more experienced guys, in my opinion. So, all right, let's move on to Michigan State. Jeff, we have here the passing game should be really good for Michigan State this season if my top 5 is correct, because I have Aiden Childs, quarterback, Christian McCray, wide receiver, Jack Velling, tight end, Nick Marsh, wide receiver, and then Nakai Martinez, safety. I was thinking Nakai Martinez's praise a little bit when we were doing our secondary rankings, and I think he deserves it. Nick Marsh, Krishan McCray, definitely two amazing wide receivers that Michigan State has there. Listen, this Michigan State team is going to have to be really good through the air this season. It's not exactly Jonathan Smith's MO, but it is something that they're going to have to rely on and do a really good job with. Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have tight end Jack Velling listed number one. He actually threw Lindy's maybe a mid-round grade, but 36 catches for 411 yards and a little safety valve for Aiden Childs. Definitely Nick Marsh number two, and you could argue maybe he's more talented, but he's still pretty young, but super talented. I had the safety Martin at number three. He was their leading tackler last year, so obviously going to be really important. I mean, if anything, I'm more worried about Michigan State's defense than anything for sure. Childs, I have fourth, but growing. Should take another leap this year, and then Krishan McCray as the wide receiver is fifth for me.
Yeah. There's a lot of people giving a lot of credit to Krishan McCray out there, and he could be really good this season. But I still am rather fond of Nick Marsh and what he's going to bring to this team. So, all right, let's go to Minnesota, Jeff. I have two running backs in Minnesota. Really, really goes down with my thoughts this season. And I also have two safeties. I just love this running back room and this safety room for Minnesota. PJ Flex really got it put together well. I have AJ Turner, running back. He's a transfer from Marshall, and boy, was he good at Marshall. Anthony Smith, defensive lineman. He could be the one that keeps this first round, second round draft pick from Minnesota going this season. Defensive lineman there. Darius Taylor, another running back, probably going to be the starting running back there, I would assume, if he doesn't flex out some other place or something. And then the two safeties, Kerry Brown and Koi Perich. And you know what? Just for the heck of it, I went ahead and put safety / wide receiver there for Koi Perich, because why not? He's deserved it. He's going to be fantastic this season. Jeff, your thoughts on those five?
Yeah, so I have Parrish number one. I mean, I talk about unicorns. Ohio State's got a couple of them. He's a unicorn. So those difference makers can cause you just to win big games just from a big play that they can make. So he's a do everything guy. And just really impressive. Taylor's number two as a running back. And let me just throw a stat at you. I was shocked last year with Minnesota. I mean, Brosmer really was driving the boat for them. They were 107th in total offense in the nation. And from a rushing perspective, they're only 14th best from a yards per rush perspective in the Big Ten. 14th best for Minnesota, 3.72 yards per rush. Now, that does factor in all the sacks and everything, but I don't think Brosmer was getting sacked left and right or anything. So, they need – so I have Darius Taylor number two, and they need him to be really good. He is good, and they need that line to be good. The edge, Anthony Smith, and all three of those are listed by Lindy's as good NFL prospects. And then I had fourth safety, Kerry Brown, and then the running back, AJ Turner, who's a transfer, right? AJ Turner, yeah. So
Marshall.
Important for depth. I mean, Minnesota loves to pound the rock, so having that second running back that can spot the starter is huge for them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be important this year with Drake Lindsey and everything, especially at the beginning of the season, just to help him get comfortable and get acclimated to what he's going to do, which I like Drake Lindsey. So I think he has a lot of promise. I just, we'll see what it is this season. So Doug Shepard says, I like this site because I learn who to watch out for by fans. Hey, appreciate you, Doug. Glad you're here. And that's what we try to do. We talk every single Big Ten team, not just 4, 5, 6 of them. Talk about every single one of them. That's what we try to do. So Dave says, is AJ and Darius the new Lawrence Maroney and Marion Barber the third?
I remember those guys so well. I'm old. I'm 57. I so remember them. My in-laws are from Minnesota. Yeah, that was a great team. And under who's the coach? Glenn Mason.
Yeah,
Old
Glenn
Mace.
Mason.
Yeah. That was a nasty combo. Maroney reminded me of the guy who just for Minnesota a couple seasons ago. Who was the guy?
Ibrahim.
Abraham. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Mo
mean, just tough
Ibrahim.
as nails. Oh
I
man.
loved Ibrahim, man. The way
Yep.
he ran was awesome, and just the way he blew up dudes. Yeah, he's awesome. All right, we can sit here and talk about Minnesota running backs forever, but we do need to get to Minnesota fans' second favorite subject, which is Nebraska.
Oh
So
boy.
let's talk some Nebraska. I have here. I have Emmett Johnson, running back. I know that's kind of a stretch for some people. Some people aren't super sold on Emmett Johnson. I think he's going to be really important for this team this year, and I think that they have a really good running back in him. I'm not sold on the depth behind him, but we'll see what goes on there. Dane Key, wide receiver, fantastic addition from Kentucky. Dylan Raiola, I have him up there. I think he's going to really take a year two leap. Watson Trent, the linebacker, I believe from Georgia Southern. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he was a fantastic linebacker there. I have him to be one of the better linebackers in the Big Ten. I think he's going to make a splash. And then Rocco Spindler. I wanted to put an offensive lineman here. I was debating either Spindler or Pritchett. Pritchett, to me, he seems to have that NFL potential upside. So if we were doing more of an NFL draft thing, I think I would have put him in the top 5. But Spindler just screams like the hard-nosed dude on the offensive line that's going to lead the offensive line, that's going to really get his nose in there, beat dudes up. And I just love that from Spindler. Really liked what I saw from him last year at Notre Dame, and I think he's going to come in and be a fantastic addition for Nebraska this season. Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, number one, I had Dane Key. So, Lindy's listed him number one as an NFL prospect. Very intriguing prospect. 4.48 speed at 6'3", 210 pounds. He meets the, walking off the bus looking like an NFL wide receiver criteria for sure. Number two, I have Raiola, 5-star quarterback. He's going to make a leap this year, as all second-year starters do. The key for him is in college, and even for the NFL prospect, is processing speed. How quickly can he process things and make quick decisions well? That's what it's going to come down to. If you can't do that, you can't really be a great quarterback. So that's still TBD on that. Number three, the Rocco Spindler. Very important to protect Raiola, give him the time he needs to get the ball to Key. And then number four, the Emmett Johnson running back. And then finally, the linebacker, Marcus Watson Trent, for me, is number 5.
Love it. Love it. Good stuff there. All right, let's get on to Northwestern. Got my edge duo in there that I've been talking about at Northwestern. One of the best edge duos, I think, in all of college football when you really get down to it entering into the season. We'll see what it's like at the end of the season. But Aiden Hubbard and Anto Saka, two fantastic edge rushers. Caleb Tiernan, the offensive tackle, fantastic NFL prospect. He's going to really hold down the left side of the offensive line for Northwestern this season. That's a great advantage for him, for Northwestern. Cam Porter is back, running back for Northwestern. This is huge. And then I went ahead and threw Preston Stone, the quarterback, in there as well. I know he lost his job to Kevin Jennings, the SMU quarterback there, but he throws a really nice deep ball. I think he's not a bad quarterback. He lost his spot after getting injured, and I think, Preston Stone, there were definitely things he needed to work on with his game, but it wasn't like he lost the job because he was terrible or anything like that. He got injured. Kevin Jennings came in, took the job from him. So I'm going to keep giving Preston Stone credit here. I like the addition. I'm going to put him in the top 5. Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I kind of followed these first 4, all listed by Lindy's as good NFL prospects. So first is defensive end Anto Saka. Limited time last year, but 15 tackles, 3.5 sacks. But really, everyone's talking about him as a breakout candidate for sure. So people, even outside of Northwestern, are very excited about him. Second would be the tackle, Caleb Tiernan, and then definitely an NFL prospect, like you said, JR. Third would be Preston Stone. Lindy's is impressed with him. And then fourth would be Cam Porter. And then finally, defensive end Aiden Hubbard would be fifth for me. Northwestern has had more offensive linemen that have done well in the NFL. So they've been solid on defense, but having that different maker at defensive end. So if Saka is what people say he can be in a breakout candidate, it's going to be important for Northwestern and hoping to rebound under David Braun there.
Yeah, and you're right. Big thing is for him to stay healthy this season. That's a big thing for him. So, All right, let's get to the Buckeyes. Ohio State, two wide receivers, safety, tight end. Just like how Michigan State better have a good passing game this year, Ohio State better have one too, because they have two really good wide receivers and a really good tight end, and then a safety, a linebacker that's in here as well. So I have Caleb Downs at safety, then Carnell Tate, wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver. No surprise there. Jeremiah Smith, his Heisman odds have gone down a little bit. Last time I checked, he is currently at plus 1100 on FanDuel for his Heisman odds there, but still very high. He's in the top four of Heisman odds overall. So don't think there's anybody arguing Jeremiah Smith in the top five here. And then Max Clare, best tight end in the nation, in my opinion, coming over from Purdue to Ohio State. That was a fantastic addition. And then I know some people might scoff at this, but I really think he has the athleticism to be a really, really good linebacker. I think we saw glimpses of it last year. We'll see if it can kind of keep expanding this year. But Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio State, really like the kid. Think he's going to be a really good player for the Buckeyes this season.
Yeah, so number one is Jeremiah Smith. I mean, when you get comparisons to Julio Jones and all this crazy stuff, it kind of speaks for itself. But then Lindy's number one for Ohio State actually was Caleb Downs. They didn't list Jeremiah because he's not draft eligible. But Downs, just the instincts, football IQ, athleticism, and even wondering, could he be a number one pick? I mean, some people are talking about that as a potential, for sure, number five, especially because also he has the leadership skills. And then all these are listed by Lindy's, with the NFL rankings. Carnell Tate as a wide receiver is number two listed by Lindy's, but three on my list here. Sonny Styles number four, but listed number three for Lindy's. So Jared, just so you know, and remind, this is not Lindy's, it's through that scouting service that they're leveraging, ranked above Max Clare, which came in last on my list just because Sonny Styles was listed higher under Lindy's. So Sonny Styles 4, Max Clare 5. But really, all these players are definitely really good NFL candidates for sure.
What was that top five for Lindy's? Can you go through that one more time?
Yeah, actually, it was Caleb Downs, Carnell Tate, Sonny Styles, Max Clare, and then Bo Atkinson was listed as fifth.
Okay. Cool.
And Smith's not on there because he's not draft eligible. So I think they only list draft eligible people on this.
Yeah, for this next one. That makes sense. That makes sense. All right, let's move on to the Oregon Ducks. Got a couple transfers. I got 3 transfers in this one, as Oregon does a really good job going to the transfer portal. But a couple guys that they developed and did a good job with as well. I got Dylan Thieneman, safety from Purdue. Purdue had gold on their team last year and just was never able to really completely come together, unfortunately for them. But Dylan Thieneman, safety. Mekhi Hughes, running back. Mateo Uiagalelei, he's more of an edge, but they have him listed as an outside linebacker, so I put that there. Isaiah World, I'm going out on a limb a little bit, but I really like his size. I really like what he can do on the outside there, the way he moves his feet. I like the prospect that he is. And in Ipani Lulalu, I apologize, but we're going to call him Poncho because that's that's what everybody else calls him, and it's much easier to say for Oregon. If you do look at the Heisman odds, I didn't have Dante Moore in there, but Dante Moore does have plus 2,500 Heisman odds. So Heisman odds obviously are not a great predictor of who the best players on the team is, but Dante Moore getting some love there from the Heisman odds on FanDuel. Like I said, plus 2,500 for Dante Moore there. And we have James is saying Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, and Bryce Bocher, linebacker, are two you missed, JR. Sadiq is an early first round rumblings. Yeah, I thought about Sadiq. I almost put Sadiq in over Poncho. I just haven't seen Sadiq as the guy yet, right? Terrence Ferguson was the guy last year. I think Kenyon Sadiq is going to be fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But he's one of those guys that it's just like, do I put him in there? So he was definitely one I battled with, and I can definitely see why you'd put him in there, James. And then Bryce Bocher, yeah, he's one that I battled with as well. It was either Bocher or Thieneman, Mekhi Hughes. I mean, a lot of really good guys you could put there for Oregon. A lot of tough picking there. So thanks for pointing those guys out, James. Jeff, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the challenge. Oregon's so loaded like Ohio State, it's hard to choose five. Lindy's did have, say Lindy's, it's allaccessfootball.com that they're using a scouting service, but Isaiah World is number one. I mean, he's 6'8". I mean, he's just monstrous. And by 6'8", you know what that means? That long wingspan that they all want,
And
and
his
yet very
feet too,
athletic.
Jeff. Have you watched him? His feet, how they're able to move when he's 6'8". It's fantastic.
Yeah, 3-year Nevada starter. So what's interesting though, he had 32 penalties the last 3 seasons. 32 penalties. So they got some cleanup to do. Just to remind, Josh Simmons, when he first came to Ohio State as well, he had all kinds of penalty issues, and all kinds of Ohio State fans complained about him. And here he is, first round draft choice, and going to start at left tackle for the Chiefs. So you can clean this stuff up. I'm not panicking over that. So number two, Yuga Angele, I say it terrible too. Dylan Thieneman, safety, number three. Running back Makayu's number four. And then the center, the fifth. But yeah, Oregon's just loaded with the NFL talent. So really hard to, we're always going to be, what about this guy, as our listener pointed out.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree with James? Would you have swapped in either Sadiq or Bocher there for one of the two that I put in there?
I wouldn't feel comfortable enough to say, yeah. So I'm gonna leave it at my rankings, but
Gotcha.
yeah, the problems with, I mean, just like Ohio State and Penn State coming next, hard to list only five. That's
For
the
sure.
problem, and then some of them are just so close, right?
Yeah. Trojan Fight asks, what are we missing with Thieneman? He was starting safety on one of the worst defenses in the country last year. Yeah, last year was super weird. They tried to use him. So his freshman year, he was used as a very deep safety, kind of last man of defense type of guy, and he was the guy that was making the play pretty much every single time. 2 years ago on that defense as a freshman, he was a freshman All-American, just fantastic job 2 years ago. They tried to use him closer to the line of scrimmage a little bit last year, and it just never really fit him. It was one of the reasons why the team was just never really able to become, what they should have been with certain players, because one, they weren't using players correctly. Two, like Max Clare, they weren't able to get the ball to some of their playmakers because of bad quarterback decision making or bad offensive line play. So really anything that you do to set up your team well, Purdue just didn't do that, which is a trait of a very poorly coached team, which Ryan Walters,
Yeah.
unfortunately, that was him.
The other thing I'd say is when, sports is so mental. Once a season goes off the rail, just to keep your motivation, to stay fired up, to stay focused, it's difficult. And I think that definitely impacted his play, and I'm sure others on the team. It's just human nature. So yeah, I would think why you would see a big drop off in his play. That's partially the way to explain it too.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm being consistent here. I did the same thing with Rod Moore, did the same thing with a couple other guys too. 2 years ago, that kind of stuff. Stephen Nwankpa. And so try not to cut it out just if they had one bad season, because there are past seasons. So, but good question. Appreciate it, Trojan Fight. All right, Penn State here, Jeff. I have Dennis Sutton, edge, really good edge rusher there. He's no Abdul Carter, but he's very, very good. Drew Aller, the quarterback, I do have in the top here, and Drew Aller, a little bit better Heisman odds than Dante Moore. He is plus 1,800 on FanDuel, so I believe he's dropped a little bit as well. And then of course the running back duo of Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton, and then the inside offensive lineman, the guard for Penn State. He has a nickname and I forget what it is, but a lot of it, or it's Vega. That's right,
Maybe.
Vega Ione, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. He's a fantastic interior offensive lineman. I believe he's going to be playing left guard for Penn State this year. Fantastic player, physical, big, just really, really good player. Can't wait to see more of him this season. Your thoughts on these five, Jeff?
Yeah, so my first four, I went with exactly what Lindy's had because I agree with it. Number one, quarterback Drew Aller. Key there, they pointed out, and this is so true, just the consistency of throwing the ball long downfield well, making the right decisions, and obviously needing to play in big games. They didn't say that in the scouting report, but that goes without saying. And then number 2, Denny Dennis Sutton. So the running backs come next, and number 3 is running back Katron Allen, and number 4 is running back Nicholas Singleton. It's interesting. Up until late last year, I always was like, Singleton looks way better than Katron Allen. I don't understand why this is even a conversation. Then I saw Allen play in the last half of the season last year. I'm like, okay, I get it. He's a little bit better than Singleton. So I do think he's a little better. And then 5th is the guard I left out. So, but yeah, a lot of good prospects. We're not even talking about, Wheatley and everything and the safety. And there's other, if we have Penn State fans on, don't yell at us. There's plenty of others we could have listed in the top 5. I think it's safe to say.
Oh, we do have a Penn State fan on. He says,
We are.
Appreciate you being here, Penn State Sports Talk. And he's not yelling at us. He's just saying Drew Aller Heisman season coming. Love that confidence there for
him.
Pit Snipe says, JR talking up Aller somewhere. Adam Lampard is heaving violently. I got to say, I have one of the most interesting relationships and analysis, of Drew Aller of any player that I've had, because Drew Aller has everything. Like, he has the size, he has the mobility. He's not the most mobile guy in the world, but he has enough mobility to be able to be dangerous. I mean, he has the arm strength, the accuracy. He has all of this stuff. It's just those late decision making, those late clutch times that he just has to get that through. I really do like Drew Aller a lot. I think Drew Aller is a fantastic talent, fantastic player. It's just in those clutch moments, those clutch times, and some of the awareness to be able to throw the ball deep down the field instead of a check down. I think he just needs to improve in those areas. But I got to tell you, I mean, I'm there with you, Pit Snipe Husker. I do have one of the more, interesting ones, but Drew Aller, he is just a fantastic talent and really, really good. He's just got to clean up on a couple things there. So, all right, let's move on to Purdue here, Jeff. I got to be honest, this one was a little bit tougher to do, but I think I did a bang-up job. So, C.J. Nunley Jr., the edge, coming from Akron, had a fantastic year last year at Akron. We'll see if he can translate much of that for Purdue this season. I'm hoping he does, because he was my draft pick on the Big Ten draft. Devin Mockabee, only returning starter from last year's team at running back. Jalen St. John, inside offensive lineman, a guard from UNLV, coming on over with him. Manny Powell, linebacker. He's getting some linebacker consideration. The linebacker award. He was on the watch list for that. Love to see that. And then the former 5-star recruit, Tony Grimes, we'll see. He transferred from Georgia to UNLV, had a good year at UNLV. Now he's at Purdue. We'll see if he can translate that good year from UNLV to Purdue. Jeff, where would you have these 5 for Purdue ranked?
Yeah, definitely Tony Grimes first, a potential mid-round draft pick. And like you said, former 5-star recruit, and has played well. Second, offensive tackle, Jalen St. John. Third, Devin Mockabee. I always liked Devin Mockabee. I just thought he looked like he could have gotten the weight room a little bit more. But he's going to be important for leadership. For the edge, CJ Nunley Jr., and then number 5 was Manny Powell for me.
Love it. Appreciate that. Also, appreciate Doreen reposting the stream. Thank you for doing that, Doreen. I always want to acknowledge when that comes up. Doesn't come up when everybody does it, unfortunately, but it does come up when Doreen does it, and we want to make sure we say thank you for doing that, Doreen. All right, Rutgers here, Jeff. I had Bradley Weaver, the edge. I have Darrell Djabome, the linebacker. D.T. Sheffield, fantastic player, coming from North Texas a couple years ago. Really like him. Really like the other wide receiver, Ian Strong, as well, and then the other edge rusher, Eric O'Neal. So got 2 edge rushers, 2 wide receivers from Rutgers. It's going to be a better wide receiver room than I think some people are prepared for Rutgers, and D.T. Sheffield and Ian Strong. And then the edge rushers there should help out the secondary a lot if they can get some pressure on them, with Eric O'Neal coming over from James Madison, Bradley Weaver coming over from Ohio University. Jeff, your thoughts on these 5?
So the first 3 definitely the edge, Eric O'Neal first. So transfer, dominated competition at the FCS and mid-major levels. And really, edge is such a primary position for putting pressure on the quarterback. So that's number 1. Second was the linebacker, Jabome, is that how you say it? Jabome.
Yep. Yep,
And
Jabomi.
he was listed as definitely an NFL prospect, as is third wide receiver Ian Strong. And then after that, number 4, I have Sheffield, the wide receiver, and then defensive end Bradley Weaver. Not as familiar with those last two for me. But hopefully Rutgers can stay healthy. I mean, that's what really held them back last year. Their offense did pretty darn good. They got in some shootouts kind of. And normally, Shiano wants to play tough, defense and control the clock and everything. So yeah, those are my 5.
Yeah, just tough last year for Rutgers. All those injuries, and then, like I said, they weren't able to get the pass rush that they wanted as well. So teams were able to throw on them more than I think they were comfortable with. And yeah, just hard year for Rutgers, but they went to a bowl game, so looking up there. All right. Next, UCLA got the Bruins. I do have Andre Jordan Jr., the transfer cornerback. Like him a lot. Javian Thomas, the running back, was not as familiar with him until recently, and I do like him more the more I've watched him. Caden Robinson. Now I do have an asterisk next to him because he does have the questionable eligibility. I was reading a UCLA site the other day. They felt like they were pretty confident that he was going to get the eligibility to be able to come back. App State transfer wide receiver, had nearly two seasons with nearly 1,000 yards receiving there. So if he can come in, that's huge for UCLA. It's not a bad wide receiver room, but it does have some unproven players. So a more proven player like Caden Robinson would be huge for them coming over from App State. And then Keanu Williams, the defensive lineman, and Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback coming over from Tennessee, had to put him in there as well. Jeff, your thoughts on these 5?
Yeah, first, Nico for sure. The NFL wants to see how he does versus top competition, actually, is one of the things they say, but he's got all the, and things that you need from a physical perspective for sure. Running back, number 2, Javian Thomas, Cal transfer. He averaged 6.3 yards a carry last year. I mean, that's really impressive. And UCLA needs that. They were terrible at running after losing Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator. Number 3, Andre Jordan Jr., the cornerback. Number 4, I had the defensive tackle, Keanu Williams, and then the Caden Robinson, and you're pointing out if he's eligible or not. And I do think things looking up for UCLA, tough schedule again like last year, but I just love the way they play under Deshaun Foster.
Very good. Very good. Fisherman asks, Caden Robinson isn't eligible, right? I think he lost his lawsuit. He did lose the one. He has an appeal coming up on, I think the decision is on the 18th of August. And like I said, I was reading a UCLA guy. They seemed pretty confident that he was going to be able to get that appeal. So we'll see. I normally wouldn't put a player like that up there, but considering I do think he's one of the top 5 guys, and it would be huge for them if he comes back, I went ahead and put him up there. So, yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I forgot to say that it was an appeal. Thanks for pointing that out, Fisherman. All right, USC. We have DJ Harvey, the San Jose State transfer, coming on over. Eric Gentry, the cornerback, Eric Gentry, the linebacker, 2 wide receivers for UCLA as well. One of the best wide receiver duos in the nation, Jacoby Lane and Mekhi Lemon, and then Kamari Ramsey, the safety, good player out there at the safety position for USC. Excited about him. I know I'm going to get some pushback from Eric Gentry. There's not a ton of USC fans that are in love with Eric Gentry. I get it. I love his athleticism. Similar to Sonny Styles, I think he has the athleticism to be a really good player. It was unfortunate that he got injured last season. I think with some more coaching under D'Anton Lynn, showcased his athleticism. I think he's going to be a really strong player for USC this year, but I would not argue a USC fan if they were to tell me they don't think he should be in the top 5. I get it. I'm ranking a little bit on faith here. Jeff, your thoughts on those 5?
So, yeah, it's interesting. USC, I mean, they had so many good receivers last year. It's almost like they had too many. And so number 1, all that's a lead in to say, number 1, Jacoby Lane, just 6'4", super athletic. Probably would have got the ball even more if, they weren't trying to feed all the receivers so they wouldn't transfer. So Just a huge talent. Then number 2, Mekhi Lemon, and they both are listed as the top 2 NFL prospects by Lindy's as well, and also listed safety Kamari Ramsey. I have them as number 3. They did not list Eric Gentry in the top 5, but USC has a very talented roster, better than the record last year for sure. So I have him 4th, and then cornerback DJ Harvey as the 5th guy for me.
Makes sense. As predicted, got some of the USC fans saying Elijah Page should be on the list, saying he should be top 5. I get that. Yeah, I wouldn't. Like I said, I'm not going to argue too much if you put somebody else in there instead of an Eric Gentry. That's who I'm assuming you guys would probably take out of there. I get that. And Elijah Page is most likely in for a good season there at left tackle for USC. So liking that. And the Trojan Fight saying Ramsey, best safety not named Downs. Like I said, man, really good safeties this season in the Big Ten. Just absolutely stacked. And yeah, Kamari Ramsey is definitely among the best in the nation for sure. So
just for you Trojan fans, just because, so Lindy's 5th guy, Braylon Shelby, their 5th guy as the edge, junior, 6'5", 260. So pretty talented there. So another guy for USC.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this USC team this season. I think we'll have a really good picture of this team a few weeks in, and I'm excited to see it. I think they can do some damage this season if things roll right for them. So, very good. All right, next up, Washington. Two teams left. I got Damon Williams Jr., another little bit of projection there, but I got Damon Williams Jr., Denzel Boston wide receiver, Ephesians Prysock, love that name by the way. Ephesians Prysock cornerback I have up there. So dual cornerbacks here for Washington with Dekario Davis as well. And then I couldn't leave my man Jonah Coleman out of the top 5. Love me some Jonah Coleman. He's going to be fantastic this season, and looking forward to I believe one last season. I think this is his last year of eligibility. One last season of Jonah Coleman. Love that. Jeff, your thoughts on these top 5?
Yeah, so number 1, and he wasn't listed by Lindy's because he's a first year, second year playing, but first year starter. So Damon Williams, right, could be another mini version of a Lamar Jackson type player where he can throw it well and run. Super excited to see him this year. So he's number 1. And all these 4 others are listed by Lindy's. And first up for them is wide receiver Denzel Boston. Shame on me for not knowing he's the son of David Boston. I did not even know that. I watched several Washington games and no one said that. I didn't recall hearing an announcer say that. It just shocks me. I feel kind of stupid for not knowing that. Number 3, Dekario Davis. Number 4 was Jonah Coleman. And again, to list Jonah Coleman number 4 shows you that Washington's got some talent too. And then, man, the all-American name team, Ephesians Prysock. I mean, he better be good with that name, but I have him 5th.
I think he was on FanDuel's all name team or whatever. So I saw that on there and I was like, hey, there we go, Big Ten representation. I wanted to do like an all Big Ten name team, but there were some positions that didn't have enough guys. So, but all right, last team here, Wisconsin. And we got some feedback, some from Wisconsin fans earlier on. So Wisconsin fans, I'll bring that up. But I do have Jake Renfro, the inside offensive, the interior offensive lineman here for Wisconsin. Preston Zachman, the safety. Again, more great safeties. Get used to it in the Big Ten. Going to be hard to throw deep balls this season. A lot of good safeties to get involved in the run game as well. Ricardo Hallman, a little bit of a tough year last year, but 2 years ago led the Big Ten in interceptions. I think he's really good player for them. Riley Mahlman, and then Vinny Anthony. I'm not sure everybody's going to agree with me on Vinny Anthony, but man, he wasn't exactly the possession receiver a couple years ago, but the way he was able to stretch the defense and give them an option down the field was huge when they utilized that. So Matthew is saying Mason Rieger and Lance Mason absolutely dominating camp. Remember those 2 names? Yes, Rieger going to be a really good linebacker for them. Allegro as well. This is something that Luke Fickell needs in his defense, a really strong, reliable linebackers, and I think he's found a couple of them, at least for sure, in Allegro and Rieger. Just want to see it from Rieger. And I did think about putting Allegro in here in the top 5 as well. And then Lance Mason, yeah, the tight end, I believe from Missouri State. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Matthew, but Missouri State tight end coming over there. He could also be very, very strong for Wisconsin this season. Love those two names, and thanks for adding those two additions to the conversation here, Matthew. All right, Jeff, your thoughts on the Wisconsin guys?
All right, number one, it listed second by Lindy's, the offensive tackle Riley Malman, and they mentioned that flexibility to play tackle as well as guard. The NFL likes that flexibility in addition to just being talented in general. Number two, Vinny Anthony, the second, and they're listed third by Lindy, so they kind of support what you're saying there. Ricardo Hallman is my third. Jake Renfro is number 4, and then Preston Zachman is the free safety as number 5. On Lindy's they list the other tackle, Joe Bruner, as the top NFL guy. So I think with Wisconsin, they're unlike previous years where it's like, oh, they're clearly this guy is like the top NFL guy. I think they have a bunch of good players, but because their play last year was so spotty, I think it probably is making them a little bit harder to rank this year, at least in my book. Because some games I watched last year, I'm like, this is not Wisconsin. I mean, they look, I don't want to bring up a bad subject, but against Nebraska, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is not Wisconsin. And for the audience to know too, my brother went to Wisconsin and all 3 of his boys. So I have 3 nephews who are all graduated from Wisconsin. I probably been to about 15 games at Camp Randall. So I know them well, and I know they're going to get back to the old, pound the rock and then play good defense.
Listen, I'm hearing some people say that Florida should be considered a college football playoff team if they're 8-4 this season. Just know you're going to be hearing the same thing from me about Wisconsin if they get themselves to 8-4 this season. Because my goodness, that schedule is a big one. But man, I believe in Luke Fickell. I think he's going to get at least 6 wins this season. I don't know exactly how they do it because that schedule's rough, but I got a feeling about Luke Fickell on this team. I don't think he's done at Wisconsin just yet, and I think that they're going to show some people that you got to start believing in Wisconsin here soon this season. All right, let's end it there, Jeff. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody who's listening in. Got some Wisconsin fans, some USC fans. Matthew says we get to 8-4. I would be a happy man. Oh, for sure. We should do an episode at some point where we talk about what's the win total every Big Ten team needs to get at for their fans to be happy. We'll have to do that. That would be a really interesting conversation. I just had that thought. So that'll be an interesting one to do. Jeff, thanks for being here, man. Tell people about your website, where they can find your written work at, in addition to your social media, everything else.
Yeah, website's bigjeffsfootball.com. Just, I go pretty deep. Everything I do is backed by data. I don't want to say everything. Most of what I do is backed by data. I don't like just to throw stuff out there, and that's kind of like been a pet peeve of mine, which why I want to make sure things are data based as much as possible. And then on X, Big Jeff's FT Ball, and just appreciate y'all joining. And again, we're trying to cover all the teams in an objective way as possible, and really exciting. The season's getting close.
For sure. And, we're not perfect. We do have some of our favorites. I got a little bit of a soft spot for Minnesota and Wisconsin. I know that's a little bit of a weird thing, but I got a little bit of soft spot for both of them. Of course, I'm an Ohio State fan, but I like Oregon. I also like Penn State. So I don't know. It's really not really a Big Ten team that I don't like. Well, Michigan, but that's the rivalry, and I remain pretty unbiased. So I'll stop talking before all the Michigan haters come in here and tell me I'm a Michigan, or the people come in here and call me a Michigan hater. So thanks for being here, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll see you on Tuesday night. We'll see if Zach is better by then. If not, you might get a triple dose of Jeff this week. How awesome would that be? Appreciate it all. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.